Welcome. My name is Darius and I want to share a true life story with you. When Dr. Benjamin Cole paused during the examination and asked Sophia in a careful voice when exactly she'd lost the baby, she stared at him in complete confusion. What baby? She had no idea what he was talking about. But the doctor's expression turned grave. He pointed to the ultrasound screen and said the tissue scarring here is recent, probably within the last 4 months. You experienced a miscarriage. There's no question about it. His words hit her like a freight train. Sophia felt the room start spinning. She'd never been pregnant. She would have known. Wouldn't she? But Dr. Cole's concerned face told her this wasn't a mistake. Something had happened to her body, something she had absolutely no memory of, and that realization filled her with a terror she couldn't quite name. In that moment, everything she thought she knew about her life, about her husband Michael, about her own reality, began to crack apart. Sophia sat frozen in the examination chair, her mind racing through the past few months, searching desperately for any sign, any clue that she'd been pregnant. Dr. Cole waited patiently, his expression a mixture of professional concern and something else, something that looked almost like alarm. He was a recommended specialist, highly rated, and she'd only come to him because the fatigue had become unbearable. 4 months now, she'd been exhausted, sleeping 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, waking up groggy and disoriented. Her cycle had been a mess, irregular and painful, but Michael kept telling her it was stress, that she was working too hard at the marketing firm, that she just needed to relax. Michael, her husband of 8 years. A pharmacist who ran his own successful drugstore in downtown Charlotte. A man she trusted completely, who made her breakfast every morning, who insisted on preparing her vitamins and supplements personally, who loved her. At least, that's what she'd always believed. Dr. Cole pulled up a stool and sat across from her, his hands folded in his lap. Sophia, I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Have you experienced any memory gaps lately? Periods of time you can't account for? Unusual drowsiness or confusion? She nodded slowly, feeling a chill creep down her spine. For the past 6 months, maybe longer. I just thought I was burning out at work. I've been so tired. Sometimes I can't remember whole afternoons. I'll be at my desk and then suddenly it's evening and I don't know where the time went. The doctor's jaw tightened. Have you been taking any medications? Anything prescribed by your husband, perhaps? Course, Sophia replied. Michael makes me a vitamin smoothie every morning. And he gives me supplements, special formulations he creates at the pharmacy. He says they're for energy, for my immune system. He's always been so attentive about my health. Dr. Cole stood up and walked to his desk, pulling out a medical referral form. Sophia, I'm going to be very direct with you because I think time is important here. The scarring in your uterus indicates a miscarriage that occurred roughly 3 to 4 months ago. But there's something else. I'm seeing signs of chemical exposure, specifically to sedatives and possibly abortifacient drugs. I need you to get a full toxicology screen immediately. Today, the room seemed to tilt. Sophia gripped the arms of the chair, her knuckles turning white. What are you saying? That someone, that Michael, she couldn't even finish the sentence. The implications were too monstrous, too impossible to voice. I'm saying that what I'm seeing in your body doesn't happen naturally, Dr. Cole said gently but firmly. Someone with access to pharmaceutical drugs and medical knowledge could have induced a miscarriage without your awareness, especially if you were being kept sedated. I know this sounds unbelievable, but I've seen cases like this before. Not often, thank God, but they happen. Sophia felt tears streaming down her face before she even realized she was crying. She'd wanted a baby for years. She and Michael had talked about it constantly, or at least she thought they had. He always said soon, just not yet, we need to save more money, we need to be more stable. She'd believed him. She'd trusted him completely. Dr. Cole handed her a tissue and waited while she composed herself. I'm going to give you the name of a colleague who specializes in toxicology. I'm also going to suggest very strongly that you consider speaking with the police. If what I suspect is true, we're talking about a serious crime. But first we need the lab work to confirm. Sophia took the referral with shaking hands. She looked at the doctor's kind, concerned face and made a decision. She had to know the truth, no matter how much it might destroy her. "Please don't tell anyone about this," she said quietly. "Not yet. If Michael finds out I'm asking questions, I don't know what he'll do." Dr. Cole nodded gravely. "Patient confidentiality is absolute. But Sophia, if you're in danger, if you feel unsafe at home, you need to get somewhere secure. Do you have family nearby? Friends you trust?" "My sister Emma lives in Raleigh, about 2 hours away. But I can't just leave. Not without knowing for sure. Not without proof." The doctor wrote something on his prescription pad and handed it to her. "This is my personal cell number. If you need anything, any time of day or night, you call me. And please get that toxicology screen done today. Go to the lab at Memorial Hospital. I'll call ahead and tell them it's urgent." Sophia left the medical office in a daze, clutching the referral papers like a lifeline. The afternoon sun seemed too bright, the traffic too loud. Everything felt surreal and threatening. She sat in her car in the parking lot for a long time, trying to make sense of what she'd just learned. Pregnant. She'd been pregnant and never knew. And someone, possibly her own husband, had taken that away from her. Had drugged her. Had violated her body in the most fundamental way possible. Her phone buzzed. Text from Michael. "Hey babe, hope your appointment went well. I'm making your favorite tonight, chicken parmesan. Love you." She stared at the message, at those casual, affectionate words, and felt a wave of nausea. Was this the same man who'd been secretly drugging her? Who'd ended a pregnancy she didn't even know she had? Or was Dr. Cole wrong? Was there some other explanation? She drove to Memorial Hospital in a fog, going through the motions mechanically. The lab technician, a cheerful woman named Ava, took her blood and urine samples, chatting pleasantly about the weather while Sophia sat silent and hollow. Dr. Cole had indeed called ahead. The samples were marked urgent and would be processed within 24 hours. When Sophia got home, Michael was already in the kitchen, humming along to some old rock song on the radio, stirring marinara sauce on the stove. He looked so normal, so familiar in his weekend jeans and old college sweatshirt. His dark hair slightly messy. His smile genuine and warm when he saw her. "Hey sweetheart, how was the doctor?" He came over and kissed her forehead, and Sophia had to force herself not to flinch away. Find out what's causing all that tiredness. She made herself smile, made herself play the role of the unsuspecting wife. He said it's probably just stress and maybe some vitamin deficiencies. He gave me some recommendations for supplements. "Well, you're in luck," Michael said, gesturing to the blender on the counter where her usual morning smoothie ingredients sat waiting. "I'm the supplement king. We'll get you feeling better in no time." Sophia looked at that blender and felt her stomach turn. How many times had she drunk those smoothies without question? How many pills had she swallowed because Michael said they were good for her? She thought about suggesting she didn't need them anymore, that she'd try something different, but she stopped herself. If Michael was guilty, if he was really doing what Dr. Cole suspected, then showing suspicion now would be dangerous. She needed to act normal until she had proof. That night, Sophia lay awake next to her sleeping husband, listening to his steady breathing, studying his face in the dim light from the street outside. This was the man she'd married in a beautiful ceremony at her parents' church in Asheville. The man who'd held her hand through her father's funeral 3 years ago. The man who'd surprised her with a trip to Paris for their 5th anniversary. Could this same man be capable of such calculated cruelty? She thought about the past year, trying to identify when the extreme fatigue had started. It was around the time she'd begun really pushing for a baby, she realized. She'd turned 35 and felt the biological clock ticking. She'd started tracking her cycle, mentioning babies more often, looking at nursery furniture online. And that's when Michael had become more insistent about the vitamins and supplements. "For your health," he'd said. "So when we do have a baby, your body will be in optimal condition." Optimal condition. The phrase echoed mockingly in her mind now. The next morning, Michael made her smoothie as usual, that thick green concoction he claimed was packed with nutrients. Sophia accepted it with a smile, brought it to her lips as she always did. But this time, when Michael turned to grab his coffee, she quickly poured half of it into the sink and added water to make it look like she'd drunk it. She felt ridiculous, paranoid, like she was losing her mind. But she couldn't bring herself to swallow it. Not until she knew. At work, Sophia could barely focus. She sat through meetings without hearing a word, stared at her computer screen without seeing it. Her colleague and friend, Emily, noticed during lunch. "You okay? You look like you haven't slept in a week." "Just tired," Sophia said automatically. Then, making a sudden decision, she asked, Can I ask you something weird? Have you noticed me acting strange lately? Like forgetting things or seeming out of it?" Emily set down her sandwich, her expression shifting to concern. "Actually, yeah. For the past few months you've been kind of spacey. A few times you've repeated the same story like you didn't remember telling me before. And last month you completely forgot we had that presentation. I had to cover for you. I figured you were just stressed, but honestly I've been worried." Sophia felt another piece of the puzzle click into place. It wasn't just her imagination. The memory gaps, the confusion, the exhaustion, it was all real. And it was getting worse. That afternoon her phone rang. Dr. Cole's office. Her heart hammered as she stepped into an empty conference room to take the call. "Sophia, it's Dr. Cole. I have your lab results and I need you to sit down." She was already sitting, but she gripped the edge of the table anyway. "Tell me. Your blood work shows significant levels of benzodiazepines, specifically lorazepam, and traces of misoprostol. For context, lorazepam is a powerful sedative, and misoprostol is a drug used to induce abortion or miscarriage. The levels in your system indicate regular, ongoing exposure. Sophia, someone has definitely been drugging you, and recently, within the last few months, you were given drugs to terminate a pregnancy." The conference room seemed to shrink around her. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The proof she'd wanted, needed, was now crushing her under its weight. "I'm so sorry," Dr. Cole continued, his voice heavy with sympathy. "But you need to go to the police right now. What's been done to you is a serious felony. And Sophia, please don't go home. Not yet. Go somewhere safe. If your husband has been doing this, and the evidence strongly suggests he has, then confronting him alone could be dangerous." Sophia heard herself thanking him, heard herself say she'd go to the police, but her mind was somewhere else entirely, replaying every morning for the past year. Michael handing her the smoothie with a smile. Michael insisting she take her vitamins. Michael telling her she was just stressed when she mentioned the fatigue. Michael's face when she talked about wanting a baby and how his smile never quite reached his eyes. She'd been pregnant. Her body had created a life, a baby she'd wanted desperately, and Michael had killed it. Had drugged her into oblivion and ended that tiny life without her knowledge or consent. The betrayal was so massive, so complete, that she couldn't process it. This wasn't just a lie or an affair. This was violation on a level she'd never imagined possible. Emily knocked on the conference room door. "Sophia, you've been in here for 20 minutes. Everything okay?" Sophia looked up at her friend's concerned face and made a decision. "No," she said quietly. "Nothing's okay. I need your help. Can you drive me somewhere?" An hour later, Sophia sat in an interrogation room at the Charlotte Police Department, facing Detective William Carter, a middle-aged man with graying hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She'd told him everything, from the doctor's discovery to the toxicology results. And now he was reviewing the lab reports Dr. Cole had faxed over. "Mrs. Sophia Hayes," Detective Carter said, setting down the papers. "What you're describing constitutes several felonies. Forced drugging, inducing abortion without consent, possibly more depending on what else we uncover. I'm going to need you to give a formal statement. Then we're going to need to get a warrant to search your home and your husband's pharmacy. We'll need samples of anything he's been giving you to ingest." Sophia nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I saved this morning's smoothie," she said. "I poured it into a thermos before I left for work. I don't know why. I just had a feeling I might need it." The detective's expression approved. "That's good thinking. That's excellent evidence. We'll get that tested right away. Over the next 2 hours, Sophia gave her statement, recounting every detail she could remember. The detective listened carefully, taking notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When she mentioned Michael's pharmacy, Carter's interest sharpened. He has access to all these drugs, correct? Lorazepam, misoprostol, anything else he might need. Complete access, Sophia confirmed. He owns the place. He does all the inventory, the ordering, everything. Detective Carter excused himself to make some calls. When he returned, he had another officer with him, a woman who introduced herself as Detective Sophia Chen. We're going to move quickly on this, Detective Carter explained. We've got a judge signing off on search warrants for your home and the pharmacy right now. But Mrs. Hayes, I need to be clear with you. Once we execute these warrants, your husband is gonna know you're on to him. You absolutely cannot go home. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? My sister Emma, in Raleigh, can go there. But we'll arrange for an officer to escort you to collect some essentials from your home while we execute the search warrant. But after that, you need to stay away until we have your husband in custody. The reality of the situation crashed over Sophia again. In custody. Her husband was going to be arrested. Her marriage was over. Her life as she knew it was completely demolished. But underneath the grief and shock, a small flame of anger was beginning to burn. Michael had done this to her. Had violated her trust, her body, her very autonomy. He'd stolen her chance at motherhood and tried to keep her compliant and confused with drugs. He deserved whatever consequences were coming. That evening, Sophia stood in her own living room feeling like a stranger in her own life. Police officers moved through her house systematically, photographing everything, bagging evidence, treating her home like a crime scene. Because that's what it was, she realized. Crime scene. The place where she'd been systematically poisoned by the man she loved. Detective Chen stayed close to Sophia, guiding her through the process with quiet professionalism. The blender was taken, every supplement bottle in the kitchen cabinet was photographed and bagged. Even the coffee maker was seized as potential evidence. In the bathroom, they found Michael's collection of pill bottles, dozens of them, all from his pharmacy, many without proper labels. Mrs. Hayes, can you identify which of these your husband gave you regularly? Detective Chen asked, gesturing to the row of amber bottles now lined up on the bathroom counter. Sophia studied them, her stomach churning. The white capsules, those were what he called immune boosters. The small blue pills were supposedly B vitamins. The pink tablets were for energy, he'd said. She pointed them out one by one, and each was carefully catalogued and bagged. One of the forensic techs called out from the bedroom. Detective, you're gonna want to see this. They found Michael's laptop in his nightstand drawer. Sophia had never thought to look there. Michael always used his tablet in the evenings while she fell asleep early, knocked out by whatever he'd put in her dinner or evening tea. The tech had already powered it on, and what was on the screen made Detective Chen's expression harden. It was a search history. How to induce miscarriage without detection. Lorazepam dosage for sustained sedation. Symptoms of drug-induced memory loss. The searches went back over a year, methodical and deliberate. Michael had researched every aspect of what he was doing to her. But it was the email account they found that revealed the full scope of his betrayal. Detective Carter, who joined them from the pharmacy search, scrolled through message after message, his jaw tight. Mrs. Hayes, I need to ask you, does the name Olivia Grant mean anything to you? Sophia shook her head. Well, I've never heard that name. Who is she? According to these emails, she's your husband's girlfriend. They've been together for about 3 years. And based on this correspondence, she's the reason he was keeping you sedated and, the detective paused, clearly not wanting to say the next part, and terminating any pregnancies. He promised her he'd leave you, but apparently, he needed to maintain appearances a little longer for financial reasons related to a business investment. The room spun. 3 years. Michael had been cheating on her for 3 years, and not just cheating, but drugging her to prevent the children she desperately wanted so he could eventually leave her for someone else. Sophia sat down hard on the edge of the bed, The bed she'd shared with a man she clearly never knew at all. Detective Chen sat beside her. I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to stay focused a little longer. We have officers at your husband's pharmacy right now executing the search warrant. We're gonna find the drugs he used, the records of what he ordered. We're building an airtight case. But right now we need to get you out of here before he comes home. Where is he? Sophia asked, her voice hollow. According to his employee, he left the pharmacy about an hour ago. He's probably on his way home. We have units ready to intercept him, but I don't want you here when that happens. Emily was waiting downstairs, her face pale and shocked. She'd been told enough to understand the gravity of the situation. Sophia grabbed a suitcase and mechanically threw in clothes, toiletries, anything she could think of. Her hands were shaking so badly that Detective Chen had to help her zip the bag. As they carried her things to Emily's car, Sophia saw Michael's truck turn onto their street. Time seemed to slow down. She watched as 2 police cruisers pulled out from where they'd been waiting and blocked his path. She saw Michael's face through the windshield, confusion shifting to alarm as officers approached with weapons drawn. Detective Carter was commanding him to step out of the vehicle, hands visible. Michael complied, his movements jerky and panicked. Even from a distance, Sophia could see him scanning the scene. His eyes landing on the police cars in their driveway, the officers coming out of their house carrying evidence bags. Then his gaze found her, standing next to Emily's car with a suitcase at her feet, and his expression transformed into something Sophia had never seen before. Not remorse, not shame, but rage. You couldn't just leave it alone, could you? He shouted as the officers grabbed his arms. You had to go to another doctor. You couldn't just trust me. Trust you. The words burst out of Sophia before she could stop them. You drugged me, Michael. You killed our baby. How many? How many times was I pregnant? Michael's face contorted. There was no baby, Sophia. There was never gonna be a baby. You think I wanted to be tied to you forever with some kid? I have a life planned, a real future, and it doesn't include playing house with you. His words were like physical blows. Detective Carter yanked Michael's arms behind his back, snapping handcuffs on with more force than was probably necessary. Michael Hayes, you're under arrest for assault, administering drugs without consent, and forced abortion. You have the right to remain silent. But Michael wasn't silent. He kept yelling as they pushed him into the cruiser. She's crazy, officers. She's making this up. I'm a respected pharmacist. Check my records. I've done nothing wrong. Detective Chen touched Sophia's shoulder gently. We found everything at the pharmacy, she said quietly. A whole stash of lorazepam and misoprostol, hidden in a false bottom drawer in his office. Unregistered, no inventory records. And his computer, there had even more evidence. Detailed logs of doses he was giving you, notes about your cycle, calculations about timing. He documented everything. Why would he document it? Sophia whispered. Why would he keep records of what he was doing to me? People like this, they think they're too smart to get caught. The detective's voice was hard with disgust. They think they're in control, untouchable. The documentation made him feel powerful, like he was conducting some kind of experiment. Emily wrapped her arm around Sophia's shoulders. Come on, honey. Let's get you out of here. You're coming home with me. The drive to Raleigh passed in a blur. Sophia stared out the window as the familiar streets of Charlotte gave way to highway, then to her sister's neighborhood. Emma was waiting on the porch when they pulled up, and the moment Sophia saw her sister's concerned face, she finally broke down completely. Emma held her while she sobbed, whispering reassurances that felt hollow but necessary. Inside Emma's cozy house, Sophia sat at the kitchen table wrapped in a blanket while her sister made tea. Emma's husband David had taken their 2 kids, Noah and Ava, to his mother's house to give Sophia space and privacy. The kindness of it made Sophia cry harder. I don't understand, she kept saying. How did I not know? How could I be pregnant and not know? What kind of woman doesn't know her own body? Emma gripped her hands tightly. Stop that. Stop blaming yourself. He drugged you, Sophia. He kept you confused and sedated. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But I should have questioned things. The smoothies, the vitamins, how tired I was all the time. I just trusted him completely. That's what marriage is supposed to be, Emma said fiercely. Trust. He's the one who broke that. He's the monster, not you. Sophia's phone had been ringing constantly. Friends who'd heard through the grapevine, colleagues, even her mother calling from Florida. She couldn't face any of them yet. Emma fielded the calls, explaining simply that Sophia needed time and privacy. Detective Carter called around 9 that evening. Mrs. Hayes, I wanted to update you. Your husband has been formally charged and is being held without bail. The judge considered him a flight risk given the severity of the charges. We've also located Olivia Grant and brought her in for questioning. What did she say? Sophia asked, not sure she actually wanted to know. She claimed she didn't know he was drugging you, but she admitted to the affair and to pressuring him to leave you. Apparently she's pregnant, about 6 months along. She said your husband promised her he'd divorce you after his business deal went through. Something about a pharmacy chain buyout that required him to appear stable and married. Another piece clicked into place. Michael had mentioned that potential buyout several times over the past year, excited about the payout that could reach 7 figures. He needed to look like a solid married family man to the conservative investors. So he'd kept Sophia sedated and compliant while he played house with his pregnant girlfriend. The business deal, Sophia said numbly. That's why he couldn't just divorce me. He needed me for appearances. Looks that way. Detective Carter's voice was sympathetic. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hayes. I know this doesn't make it any easier. But we have a strong case. With the physical evidence, the computer records, and his own outburst when we arrested him, your husband is looking at significant prison time. How much time? With all the charges, forced drugging, induced abortion without consent, assault, we're looking at potentially 15 to 20 years. And the medical board has already been notified. His license will be revoked permanently. Sophia thanked him and hung up. 20 years. 2 decades behind bars for the man who'd promised to love and cherish her. It should have felt like justice, but mostly it just felt empty. That night, Sophia lay in Emma's guest room staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep despite her exhaustion. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she opened it. It was from Olivia. Sorry. I didn't know what he was doing to you. He told me you couldn't have kids, that you didn't want them. I never would have if I'd known. I'm so sorry. Sophia stared at the message for a long time. Part of her wanted to rage at this woman who'd stolen her husband, who was carrying the baby Sophia had been denied. But another part of her recognized that Olivia was a victim too, in a different way. Michael had lied to everyone, manipulated everyone to get what he wanted. She didn't respond. She simply blocked the number and set her phone aside. Over the next few days, the story broke in the local news. Pharmacist accused of drugging wife, forcing miscarriage. Sophia's name was kept private, but everyone in their social circle knew. The calls and messages intensified. Some were supportive, horrified on her behalf. Others were skeptical, suggesting there must be more to the story, that Sophia must have done something to drive Michael to such extremes. Those messages hurt the most. The implication that somehow she deserved what happened, that she'd failed as a wife and forced Michael into the arms of another woman. Emily screened everything, protecting Sophia from the worst of it, but some still got through. Michael's mother called, crying, begging Sophia to drop the charges. He made a mistake, she pleaded. He's a good boy. He's under so much stress. Surely you can forgive him. Sophia hung up without responding. Forgiveness wasn't even on her radar. She was still trying to process the basic facts of what had been done to her. A week after the arrest, Detective Chen came to Emma's house with more news. We've finished analyzing everything from your home and the pharmacy, she explained, sitting across from Sophia in the living room. The pill bottles contained exactly what we suspected. The white capsules were lorazepam, 2 milligrams each. The blue pills were also sedatives, just a different type. The pink tablets were actually misoprostol, the abortion drug. You were being given a dosage that would prevent any pregnancy from progressing past a few weeks. So I might have been pregnant multiple times, Sophia said. The thought made her physically ill. Based on his notes, yes. At least 4 times in the past 18 months. Each time, he increased the misoprostol as soon as his tracking indicated you might have conceived. The detective's voice was gentle but clear. He was monitoring your cycle obsessively, timing everything precisely. Sophia felt Emma's hand find hers and squeeze tight. 4 babies. 4 lives that had barely begun before Michael extinguished them. The grief was overwhelming, a tidal wave that threatened to drown her. There's something else, Detective Chen continued. We found financial records that show he was embezzling from his own pharmacy to support Olivia and to prepare for the divorce he was planning. He'd already hired a lawyer, had papers drawn up. He was just waiting for that buyout to go through so he could take the money and leave you with nothing. So the whole last year, maybe longer, he was just using me. Playing me while he built his exit strategy. I'm afraid so. But here's the thing, Mrs. Hayes. That buyout he was waiting for. The investors pulled out this morning. The news about his arrest made them run for the hills. His pharmacy's reputation is destroyed. His assets are likely going to be seized to pay for his legal defense and the restitution he'll owe you. He's lost everything. It should have felt satisfying, but Sophia just felt numb. She'd lost everything too. Her marriage, her trust, her chance at motherhood, her sense of safety in the world. Even if Michael spent decades in prison, even if he lost every penny, it wouldn't give her back what he'd stolen. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Sophia had to return to Charlotte, had to face the legal system and relive her nightmare in front of strangers. Her lawyer, a sharp woman named Jessica Morgan, met with her several times to prepare. The evidence is overwhelming, Jessica explained during one of their sessions. His own documentation convicts him. The computer logs, the hidden drugs, the emails to his girlfriend. The prosecutor is confident this won't even go to trial. His lawyer is already making noises about a plea deal. What kind of deal? Sophia asked, alarmed. He can't just walk away from this. He won't. Jessica's voice was firm. Even with a plea, he's looking at minimum 10 years, probably more. The prosecutor won't accept anything less. What happened to you is too egregious, too calculated. No judge is gonna go easy on him. The hearing itself was a blur. Sophia sat in the courtroom, flanked by Emma and Emily, while Michael was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked terrible, hollow-eyed and pale, but when his gaze found hers, there was still that flash of anger, of blame. As if this was somehow her fault for discovering his crimes instead of remaining his compliant, drugged victim. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically. The medical evidence from Dr. Cole and the toxicology reports. The drugs found at Michael's pharmacy with no inventory records. The computer files documenting his deliberate poisoning of his wife. The emails to Olivia discussing his plans to leave Sophia once the business deal concluded. Each piece of evidence was another nail in Michael's coffin. His lawyer, a tired-looking public defender, tried to argue that Michael had mental health issues, that he'd been under extreme stress. But even he seemed to know it was hopeless. The judge, an older woman named Patricia Wells, listened with an expression of barely concealed disgust. When it was Sophia's turn to give her victim impact statement, she stood on shaking legs and faced the man she'd married. "I trusted you with everything," she began, her voice stronger than she expected. "My health, my body, my future. You took that trust and weaponized it. You didn't just lie to me or cheat on me. You violated me in the most fundamental way possible. You stole my chance at motherhood. You poisoned me day after day and watched me suffer, knowing you were the cause." Michael stared at the floor, refusing to meet her eyes. "I wanted children with you," Sophia continued, tears streaming down her face now. "I dreamed about our family. And you killed those dreams. You killed our babies. For times you ended pregnancies I didn't even know I had. That's not a mistake. That's not stress. That's evil. The courtroom was completely silent. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, listening with visible emotion. I'll never get those years back, Sophia finished. I'll never get my babies back. But I will heal. I will survive this. And you will spend the next decade remembering that you destroyed your own life because you were too cowardly to just tell me the truth and let me go. She sat down, emotionally spent. Emma grabbed her hand and held tight. Judge Wells looked at Michael with cold fury. Mr. Hayes, in my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely encountered such a calculated and cruel violation of trust. You used your medical knowledge and access to pharmaceuticals as weapons against your wife. You systematically drugged her, monitored her body without her knowledge, and terminated pregnancies she desperately wanted. The court finds sufficient evidence to bind you over for trial on all charges. Michael's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client would like to enter a plea at this time to avoid the necessity of trial. The judge raised an eyebrow. The prosecution has been made aware. The prosecutor, a serious man named James Mitchell, nodded. We've discussed terms, Your Honor. Mr. Hayes will plead guilty to all charges in exchange for a sentence recommendation of 18 years with no possibility of parole for the first 12. Judge Wells looked at Sophia. Mrs. Hayes, as the victim, you have the right to weigh in on this plea agreement. Are these terms acceptable to you? Sophia stood again. 18 years felt both like forever and not nearly enough. But she was exhausted, drained by the constant reliving of trauma. A trial would mean months more of this, of having her life dissected in public. Yes, Your Honor, she said quietly. I just want this to be over. The judge accepted the plea. Michael Hayes was formally sentenced to 18 years in federal prison, with additional stipulations that he could never practice pharmacy again, could never contact Sophia, and would owe her substantial restitution from any assets or future earnings. As they led him away, Michael finally looked at her one last time. There was no apology in his eyes. No remorse. Just resentment and self-pity. Sophia looked away, refusing to give him even that small satisfaction. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Jessica shielded Sophia from most of them, but one question broke through. Mrs. Hayes, how do you move forward after something like this? Sophia paused, considering. One day at a time, she said simply. And then she let Emma and Emily guide her to the car. The months that followed were the hardest of Sophia's life. She quit her job at the marketing firm, unable to face the pitying looks and whispered gossip. She moved in with Emma permanently, helping with her niece and nephew while trying to figure out who she was now after everything. She started therapy twice a week with a trauma specialist named Dr. Rachel Kim. The sessions were painful, forcing her to confront not just what Michael had done but her own feelings of guilt and shame. Why didn't I see it? Was a refrain she couldn't escape. Dr. Kim was patient but firm. Because he was a skilled manipulator who used his medical knowledge and your trust against you. You're not psychic, Sophia. You're human. And humans trust the people they love. That's not a weakness. What he did with that trust is the crime. Slowly, incrementally, Sophia began to heal. She started taking long walks in the mornings, reclaiming her body as her own. She reconnected with old friends she'd drifted away from during the marriage. She discovered she liked painting, finding solace in the simple act of creating something beautiful from nothing. 8 months after Michael's sentencing, Sophia was in Emma's backyard watching Noah and Ava play when her phone rang. It was Dr. Cole, the physician who'd first discovered the terrible truth. Mrs. Hayes, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I wanted to check in on you. How are you doing? His genuine concern touched her. I'm okay, she said. Some days are better than others. I'm healing. I'm glad to hear that. Listen, I'm calling because I've been consulting on your case with a fertility specialist, a colleague of mine named Dr. Anna Martinez. I know you were told the scarring from the repeated miscarriages might prevent future pregnancy, but Dr. Martinez believes there may be options. Would you be willing to meet with her? Sophia's heart clenched. She'd accepted that motherhood wasn't in her future, had tried to make peace with that loss. The idea of hoping again felt terrifying. I don't know if I can go through that disappointment. Understand. But Dr. Martinez has had success with cases similar to yours. It might be worth a conversation at least. No pressure. Just information. Sophia agreed to the meeting, mostly because she felt she owed Dr. Cole for saving her life. But as she drove to Dr. Martinez's office 2 weeks later, she felt her walls going up, protecting herself from hope. Dr. Martinez was a warm, energetic woman in her 40s with kind eyes and an easy smile. She reviewed Sophia's medical history thoroughly, asked detailed questions, and then did a comprehensive examination. "Okay, here's what I'm seeing," Dr. Martinez said, pulling up ultrasound images on her screen. "Yes, there's scarring. Yes, the repeated trauma to your uterine lining has caused damage. But, and this is important, it's not irreparable. Your ovaries are healthy. Your hormone levels are good. With some surgical intervention to remove the scar tissue and possibly some fertility assistance, pregnancy is absolutely possible for you." Sophia felt tears welling up before she could stop them. "Really? You're not just saying that to make me feel better." "I don't deal in false hope," Dr. Martinez said gently. "I'm telling you what the medical reality is. It won't be easy. It'll require procedures and probably IVF. But if you want to be a mother, Sophia, I believe we can help make that happen." That night, Sophia sat with Emma on the porch, watching the sunset and processing the possibility. "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if I go through all of this and it doesn't work? What if I let myself hope and it's just more heartbreak?" Emma was quiet for a moment. "What if it does work? What if you get the baby you've always wanted? Are you willing to let fear steal that from you after Michael already stole so much?" The words hit home. Michael had taken years of her life, her sense of safety, her trust. She couldn't let him take her future too. Over the next 6 months, Sophia underwent surgery to repair the uterine damage. The procedure was successful. Dr. Martinez was optimistic. They began the IVF process, which was emotionally and physically exhausting. Hormone injections, constant monitoring, the nerve-wracking wait to see if the eggs would fertilize, if the embryos would be viable. Through it all, Emma was her rock. Emily visited regularly from Charlotte. Even Dr. Cole checked in periodically, having become an unexpected friend through the ordeal. And Sophia discovered she was stronger than she'd ever known. She'd survived Michael's betrayal. She could survive this too. The first transfer didn't take. Sophia grieved but didn't give up. The second transfer showed promise but ended in an early miscarriage that sent her spiraling back into dark memories of all the pregnancies Michael had stolen. But Dr. Martinez and Dr. Kim both encouraged her to try again when she was ready. The third transfer happened just over a year after Michael's sentencing. Sophia tried not to hope, tried to protect herself, but when Dr. Martinez called with the results, she could hear the smile in the doctor's voice. "Sophia, it worked. You're pregnant. And the levels look really strong." Sophia sat down hard, the phone pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." "Congratulations, sweetheart. You're going to be a mom." The pregnancy was anxiously monitored every step of the way. Every appointment, Sophia expected bad news, braced for loss. But week after week the baby grew. Strong heartbeat, good development, everything progressing normally. When she reached 12 weeks and the risk of miscarriage dropped significantly, Sophia finally let herself believe it might actually happen. She told Emma, who cried and hugged her so tight Sophia could barely breathe. She told Emily, who drove up from Charlotte immediately to celebrate. She even told her therapy group, a collection of women who'd suffered various betrayals and traumas, and they cheered for her victory. At 20 weeks, the ultrasound revealed she was having a girl. Sophia watched her daughter move on the screen, saw the tiny hands and feet, the perfect profile, and felt a love so overwhelming it was almost painful. "I'm gonna name her Hope," she told Emma. "Because that's what she is. Proof that hope can survive anything." The pregnancy wasn't easy. The scar tissue caused complications that required bed rest for the final trimester. But Sophia endured it all with a determination born of everything she'd survived. This baby, this miracle, was worth any discomfort. She was 7 months pregnant when she got an unexpected letter. It was from Michael, forwarded through her lawyer with a note that Sophia was under no obligation to read it if she didn't want to. She almost threw it away. But curiosity won out. The letter was short. Michael claimed he'd been going to therapy in prison, that he was working on understanding why he'd done what he did. He stopped short of a real apology but acknowledged he'd hurt her deeply. The final line read, "I heard through my mother that you're pregnant. I'm glad you got what you wanted. You deserved better than what I gave you." Sophia read it twice, looking for genuine remorse, but mostly she just felt nothing. Michael was her past, a painful chapter that was closed. This baby moving inside her was her future. She threw the letter away and didn't think about him again. At 38 weeks, Sophia went into labor. Emma drove her to the hospital, holding her hand through contractions and encouraging her when the pain became overwhelming. The delivery was long and difficult, complicated by the uterine scarring, but Dr. Martinez was there personally, guiding her through every push. And then, after hours of exhausting labor, Sophia heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Her daughter's cry, strong and healthy and real. They placed the baby on her chest, and Sophia looked down at the tiny, perfect face and felt something inside her that had been broken for so long finally click back into place. Hope looked up at her with dark, curious eyes, and Sophia knew with absolute certainty that every moment of pain, every betrayal, every loss had led her here. "She's perfect," Emma whispered, crying happy tears as she looked at her new niece. "She is," Sophia agreed, kissing her daughter's downy head. "She absolutely is." The first year of Hope's life passed in a beautiful blur of sleepless nights and precious moments. Sophia discovered that motherhood was everything she'd dreamed and more. Every smile, every milestone, every tiny achievement felt like a victory not just for Hope but for Sophia herself. This life she was nurturing was proof that Michael hadn't won, that he hadn't destroyed her capacity for joy and love. Emma's kids adored their baby cousin. 6-year-old Ava would sit for hours just watching Hope sleep, completely enchanted. 8-year-old Noah appointed himself her protector, very serious about making sure she had her favorite stuffed bunny whenever she fussed. The house was full of laughter and chaos and love, everything Sophia had been denied for so long. Dr. Martinez visited when Hope was 3 months old, bringing a pink teddy bear and an enormous smile. "Look at her," she said, holding the baby with practiced ease. "Absolutely perfect. You did good, Sophia." "We did good," Sophia corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." The doctor's eyes got misty. "This is why I do what I do. Moments like this. You deserved this happiness." When Hope was 6 months old, Sophia received notification that Michael's appeal had been denied. He would serve his full sentence with no possibility of early release. She felt a small sense of closure reading that, then set the paperwork aside and went back to playing with her daughter. Michael was irrelevant now, a shadow that couldn't touch the light she'd built. Emily visited from Charlotte regularly, often bringing her new boyfriend James, a kind elementary school teacher who was wonderful with Hope. Life was moving forward for everyone. The trauma was becoming something they'd survived rather than something that defined them. On Hope's first birthday, Sophia threw a party in Emma's backyard. Friends and family gathered, including Dr. Cole and Dr. Martinez, who'd become genuine friends over the past 2 years. There was a pink cake, balloons, presents piled high, and Hope in a little birthday dress, delightedly smashing frosting everywhere. As Sophia watched her daughter's joy, watched the people who'd helped save her celebrating this miracle baby, she felt overwhelming gratitude. Not for what had happened, never that, but for the strength she'd found to survive it. For the people who'd stood beside her. For the doctors who'd believed her and fought for her. For this second chance at the life she'd always wanted. Dr. Cole pulled her aside at one point. "I've been thinking about your case a lot," he said. "With your permission, I'd like to write it up for a medical journal. Not with your name, of course. Complete anonymity. But doctors need to be aware that this kind of abuse happens. We need to know what to look for." Sophia considered it. The idea of her nightmare being studied, discussed in medical schools and conferences, would have horrified her once. But if it could help even one other woman, one other victim who didn't know why her body was failing her, then maybe some good could come from the horror. Yes, she said. Do it. If it helps someone else, it's worth it. A few months after Hope's first birthday, Sophia made a decision. She'd been living with Emma for over 2 years, and while her sister insisted she could stay forever, Sophia knew it was time to build her own life again. She found a small house just 10 minutes away, close enough for the cousins to see each other constantly but giving her the independence she needed. The day she moved in, Emma helped her unpack while Hope toddled around exploring every corner of her new home. "This is good," Emma said, hanging curtains in the living room. "You're ready for this." "I am," Sophia agreed and realized it was true. She was ready. Ready to stand on her own. Ready to be just Sophia again. Not Sophia the victim or Sophia who survived, but just Sophia, a woman and a mother building a happy life. She got a part-time job doing freelance marketing from home, something flexible that let her be present for Hope while still using her professional skills. The work felt good, reminded her she was more than what had been done to her. One afternoon when Hope was 18 months old, Sophia was at the park pushing her daughter on the swings when she noticed a man watching them with a warm smile. He was there with his own kid, a little boy about Hope's age. Their eyes met and he walked over. "Your daughter's beautiful," he said. "I'm Oliver, by the way. My son Liam is the one eating sand over there." Sophia laughed. "I'm Sophia. Thank you. She's my whole world." They started talking, easy conversation about toddler chaos and the challenge of keeping tiny humans alive. Oliver was a widow, raising Liam alone after his wife had died in childbirth. There was a quiet sadness in his eyes that Sophia recognized, the look of someone who'd survived their own tragedy. They exchanged numbers, just as friends, just as two single parents navigating the same overwhelming world. But over the following months, as park playdates became coffee dates became dinners with the kids, Sophia felt something she'd thought she'd never feel again. The tentative, terrifying flutter of new feelings. Oliver was patient, kind, never pushing. He knew she had history, though she didn't share details at first. He seemed to understand instinctively that she needed to move slowly, to rebuild trust inch by careful inch. When Hope was 2 years old, Sophia finally told Oliver everything. They were sitting on her porch after putting the kids to bed, and the words just came spilling out. Michael, the drugging, the stolen pregnancies, all of it. She watched his face as she talked, braced for horror or pity or the urge to run. Instead, Oliver reached over and took her hand. "I'm so sorry that happened to you," he said quietly. "And I'm so grateful you survived it. Because otherwise I never would have met you." It was exactly the right thing to say. Not minimizing her trauma but acknowledging that she'd come through it. That she was here, whole and strong and worthy. Their relationship deepened slowly, built on honesty and respect. Oliver never tried to replace what she'd lost or fix what had been broken. He just walked beside her, a steady presence as she continued to heal. When Hope was 3, Sophia got a call from the victim services coordinator. Michael was up for a parole review, though given his sentence, release was highly unlikely. Did Sophia want to submit a statement? She thought about it for a long time. Part of her wanted to write pages about the ongoing impact of his crimes, to make sure he stayed locked away as long as possible. But another part of her just wanted to be done, to close that chapter completely. In the end, she wrote 3 sentences. "What Michael Hayes did to me was unforgivable. He stole years of my life and possibilities I can never recover. He should serve every day of his sentence." The parole was denied. Sophia filed the notification away and didn't think about Michael again. On a bright Saturday morning when Hope was 4 years old, Oliver took Sophia and Hope to the beach. They built sandcastles, collected shells, splashed in the waves. Hope was fearless, running toward the ocean with squeals of delight while Sophia's heart lurched with protective love. As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Oliver got down on one knee in the sand. Hope, who'd been let in on the secret, bounced excitedly beside him. "Sophia," Oliver said, his voice thick with emotion, "you're the strongest, bravest, most amazing woman I've ever known. You've been through hell and you came out the other side with grace and kindness intact. Love you. I love Hope. And I want to spend the rest of my life showing you both what real love looks like if you'll have me. Sophia looked at this good man, at her beautiful daughter practically vibrating with excitement, at the life she'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. Hope launched herself at both of them, and they all ended up in a pile in the sand, laughing and crying and holding each other tight. The wedding was small and perfect, held in Emma's backyard with only close friends and family. Hope was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Liam was the ring bearer, slightly less serious but absolutely adorable. Dr. Cole and Dr. Martinez were there, beaming with pride. Emily caught the bouquet and joked that maybe she and James would be next. As Sophia and Oliver exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other in sickness and health, Sophia thought about how different these promises felt. How sacred and real. Oliver looked at her like she was precious, irreplaceable, and she knew with bone-deep certainty that she was safe with this man. Their honeymoon was a family affair, all four of them going to Disney World where Hope and Liam were enchanted by everything. Sophia watched Oliver swing Liam onto his shoulders while holding Hope's hand, and felt her heart might burst with gratitude for this second chance. Life wasn't perfect. Sophia still had hard days when the trauma crept back in, when she had nightmares or moments of paralyzing fear. But she had Dr. Kim, her therapist, to help her work through it. She had Oliver, patient and understanding. She had Emma and Emily and a whole support system that held her up when she faltered. When Hope started kindergarten, Sophia stood at the bus stop fighting tears as her baby girl climbed aboard with her little backpack. Oliver squeezed her hand. She's gonna be great, he said. Just like her mom. That afternoon, Sophia got an email from Dr. Cole. The medical journal article about her case had been published. It was already generating discussion in medical communities about the need for better safeguards, for doctors to look beyond the obvious when patients presented with mysterious symptoms. 3 women had already come forward with similar stories after reading it, finally understanding what had been done to them. Sophia read the stories with tears in her eyes. Her nightmare was helping others. That had to mean something. On Hope's 5th birthday, the whole family gathered again. Hope, confident and joyful, blew out her candles and made a wish. What did you wish for? Liam asked. Hope grinned. Baby sister. Sophia and Oliver exchanged looks, then started laughing. We might be able to make that happen, Oliver said. And Hope shrieked with excitement. 6 months later, Sophia found herself pregnant again, this time naturally and without complication. The pregnancy was closely monitored, but everything progressed smoothly. And when baby Ava was born, a healthy 7 pounds with Oliver's eyes and Sophia's smile, their family felt complete. Sophia sat in the hospital bed holding her newborn daughter while Hope cuddled beside her and Oliver and Liam looked on with matching expressions of love and awe. This, she thought. This is what happiness looks like. Not the absence of pain or the erasure of the past, but the building of something beautiful despite it all. She'd survived the unimaginable. She'd fought her way back from betrayal and violation. She'd reclaimed her body, her agency, her right to joy. And now she had everything she'd ever dreamed of. Children, a partner who truly loved her, a family built on honesty and respect. Michael had tried to destroy her, but he'd failed. She was here, whole and happy and surrounded by love. And that, Sophia knew, was the sweetest victory of all. As she looked around at her family, her heart overflowing with gratitude and joy, Sophia whispered a silent thank you to the woman she'd been 2 years ago, the broken woman who'd found the courage to walk into Dr. Cole's office. That woman's bravery had led to this moment, to this perfect, imperfect, absolutely beautiful life. And they all lived on, not in some fairy tale perfection, but in the real, messy, wonderful happiness of a family who'd found each other against all odds. Hope grew up strong and confident, knowing she was deeply loved. Ava thrived surrounded by siblings who adored her. Oliver and Sophia built a marriage based on trust and communication, consciously choosing each other every single day. Some stories don't have happy endings, but this one did. Because Sophia had refused to let her abuser write the final chapter. She'd taken back her pen and written her own ending, one filled with love, healing, and the kind of joy that only comes from surviving the darkness and choosing to step back into the light. And that, friends, is where we leave her. Happy, healed, and home at last. If this story touched your heart, if Sophia's journey meant something to you, give this video a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear that survival is possible, that happiness can be rebuilt, that the people who try to break us don't get to win. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, what time it is in your corner of the world. Your support means everything and helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. Subscribe for more real-life stories of survival, strength, and second chances. There are 2 more powerful stories on your screen right now. Click one and keep listening. Thank you for being here, for witnessing Sophia's journey, for believing that hope can survive anything. With love and gratitude, this is Darius, and I'll see you in the next story.